What's on, ladies and gentlemen? My name's Ross, I like games, and today we've got a full evolution line to be talking about. I like it when Digimon do this. So yeah, we're building up to MirageGaogamon here, obviously, but what we've actually had revealed in moderately quick succession is the full evolution line, level 2 to level 6, including a Tamer, finishing up for super rare level 6, and I love when they do this because it means we can just sit and look at the whole evolution line, and that makes me really very happy indeed. Translations here from the lovely folks at Ensan Gaming, the lovely folks at DigimonCard.dev, and the lovely me, who had to go at some of these myself. So starting off then, with the level 2, we've got ourselves a Wanyamon, and we got an inheritable skill when attacking once per turn. If you have a blue Tamer in play, draw a card. Nice. I like drawing cards. And honestly, the bar here is like super low. Oh, you got to have a blue Tamer in play. How am I ever going to reach that insane bar of having a blue Tamer in play? Nah, I love this, ladies and gentlemen. This is cool. I'm a fan. Go team. We then move up to the level 3, which is the Gaomon, which is actually the exception here because this one was revealed a little while ago. And incidentally, they've all got Nikolai Petrov in the artwork. The level 3, 4, 5, and 6 all have Nikolai Petrov in the artwork, which is really rather lovely. So what we've got here is, on play, reveal the top 3 cards of your deck. You can add a Digimon card with Gaogamon in its name and a blue Tamer to your hand. Trash the remaining cards. And we've played enough Digimon at this stage to know this is a really good skill. We've seen loads of skills which look at the top X cards of your deck, usually 3 or 4, and if it's fine a type of Digimon, it's good. If it's fine a Digimon and a Tamer, it's great. And sure, it's got to have a Digimon with Gaogamon in its name. Remember, MirageGaogamon will certainly fit here. It's got to be in the name, not actually called that. That is very, very important. And then you get your Tamer as well. This is good. Incidentally, it could be anyone other than Nikolai Petrov as long as they're blue. But come on, that's clearly what we're talking about today. Oh yeah, and we got an inheritable skill. When you are attacking once per turn, if you have a Tamer in play, that is any Tamer in play, return one of your opponent's level 3 Digimon to its owner's hand. Sure, it's only a level 3, and sure, maybe they've got play skills you don't want them to repeat and all of that. It's not an amazing skill, it's a nice bonus. You're playing Gaomon for the play skill, but the inheritable skill is a nice bonus if nothing else. Now, moving up into the level 4 here, we've got Gaogamon. Again, I love this. Firstly, this is going to look so good lined up in your binder, but I just love that they're like, here's a whole evolution line, and we're going to put a Tamer in each of the images. We're going to show you the Tamer as well. Just as someone covering the game and wanting to talk about the game, this makes my life so much easier, gives me a lovely themed video, and also, I want more artwork with the Tamers in. So having a whole evolution line with the Tamer in every level, this is just wonderful. I really hope Bandai does this more. So what we got here is a 5 cost to play normally, 2 cost to Digivolve, 5,000 power. Pretty standard. We expect 424 or 525. This is fine. We then have an attacking skill once per turn. If your opponent has 8 or more cards in their hand, you gain 1 memory. And in the past, I've said quite a lot how you don't have 8 or more cards in hand all that often. And in the early days of the game, that was true. Things are swinging around. We're getting better draw engines nowadays. It's not something that's going to happen all the time, let's be perfectly clear. But it will happen sometimes. Not all the time. And some decks it will happen against way more than others. So I don't think this is a skill to rely on, but it's still a handy bonus. And bearing in mind, Wanyamon's drawing a card anyway, so potentially here, if you got a blue Tamer in play and your opponent's got 8 or more cards in hand, then when you attack, you get an extra card and an extra memory. Come on. That's pretty cool. Plus, we got an inheritable skill when attacking once per turn. If you have a Tamer in play, return an opponent's level 3 Digimon to their hand, which you may notice is the exact same skill I just told you about on Gaomon. And my feelings about the skill are exactly the same. No, I don't think it's a phenomenal game-breaking skill, and I'm not going to pretend it is. But I absolutely do think that this is kind of useful. And certainly now that you're kind of stacking up 2 of them in a row, what you basically end up with here is a situation where you're taking 2 level 3s off the board. Well, your opponent is not going to have infinite memory. quite obviously. So there is going to come a point where your opponent just runs out of memory, where your opponent isn't really able to play the cards they want to be playing because you're constantly putting level 3s back into their hand, and they just don't have all the memory they need to keep playing them over and over again. You're kind of treating it like a board filler here, I suppose. Or a board wipe. Just trying to get rid of your opponent's board, trying to get rid of all their level 3s. And sure, they are going to get to the stage where they're evolving past them, and that's kind of annoying. Sorry about that. They're not just going to have level 3s forever, but there's going to come a point where you're able to get rid of 1 or 2 of these, 3 or 4 of these, and that is going to turn the tide of the game. Then we move up into MirageGaogamon. We got ourselves a level 5, 7 cost play normally, 3 cost to Digivolve, 7,000 power, all incredibly standard. When Digivolving until the end of your opponent's next turn, this Digimon gets blocker. For every 4 cards in your opponent's hand, you gain an extra 2,000 power. So you're a 7,000 power blocker, that's fine but not that impressive. If your opponent's got 4 cards in hand, you're a 9,000 power blocker, that's looking a lot better. If they've got 8 cards in hand, you're an 11,000 power blocker, and this just adds up as we go. Again, like we saw with Gaogamon here, your opponent having a lot of cards in hand is really going to make or break this skill. If your opponent's got 2 or 3 cards in hand, you're a 7,000 power blocker. It ain't that impressive. Still a 7,000 power blocker, though. Let's not poo-poo it completely. It's just nowhere near as good as it could be. But my point is, if your opponent's got 2 or 3 cards in hand, they're short of options. Your opponent doesn't want to have, like, naff cards in hand. That's not their goal, ladies and gentlemen. That is not their goal. So, if they've got lots of cards in hand, they've got more options, but you can punish them. If they don't have lots of cards in hand, they don't have as many options. I kind of like this. I do think that you really are depending on what you're playing against more so than in a whole bunch of other decks. But still, we got some, and not all the skills are reliant on your opponent's hand, let's be clear, but some of them very much are. Also, on both players' turns, once per turn, when the number of cards in your opponent's hand increases due to card effects, unsuspend this Digimon. Now, bearing in mind you're a blocker when you Digivolve up, so unsuspending on your opponent's turn is going to be good, and basically if there's a card effect that draws them cards on their turn or your turn, you get an extra use. Now it's an inheritable skill, so you're going to be doing this on your level 6, and yeah, they gain a card on your turn through a skill, you get an extra attack. They gain a card on their turn during a skill, you get to unsuspend and potentially block. Although again, remember, the blocking is a static skill and the unsuspend is an inheritable skill, so you would need to have blocker from somewhere else. The blocking is on MirageGaogamon, but the unsuspend is the Digimon that has Digivolved from it. That is very important to note. So yeah, this seems fun. Unsuspending, drawing cards, getting extra memory. It's not as simple as you might like, but there's a lot to get excited about. But we then move up to the super rare MirageGaogamon, and we've got 12 cost to play normally, 4 cost to Digivolve, 12,000 power. Nice. And that's slightly expensive on the play and the evolution, but nothing terrible. It used to be 11-3-11, but nowadays it really could be 11-3-11 or 12-4-12. They both work a lot. When Digivolving, return one of your opponent's level 5 or lower Digimon to their hand. But if you can't do that for whatever reason, your opponent adds one of the security from the top of their stack to their hand. And sure, they're gaining a card in their hand, but they're losing a security. Yes, that'll do, pig. That'll do. You're giving your opponent an extra card in their hand, but you're also getting rid of one of their security. And bearing in mind, if you've Digivolved up from MirageGaogamon, then this means that they have added a card to their hand using a card skill, which means you unsuspend and get a second attack, which is lovely. So basically, look at your opponent's board. If they don't have a level 5 or lower Digimon that you can return to the hand, because some of them, remember, have skills that mean you can't. If they don't have one attack, you're suspended. You then evolve up. add a card from their security to their hand. They've got one less security, and then you unsuspend. This is very, very cool. I'm a fan of this. I am a fan of this. And then on both players' turns, once per turn, when the number of cards in your opponent's hand increases due to a card effect, you gain 1 memory for each 4 cards in their hand. I.e., if they draw a card and they've now got 4 cards in hand, you gain a memory. If they draw a card and they've now got 5 cards in hand, you gain a memory. But if they've now got 8 cards in hand, you gain 2. It must, however, be due to a card effect, not just drawing for their turn, for instance. So we got more gaining memory, just like we saw a moment ago on Gaogamon. And this is just cool. I am still a little bit worried, though, because a lot of this relies on your opponent gaining cards through effects, having particular numbers of cards in hand, etc. And there's plenty of those decks about, but I just worry if you find a good deck that's not doing that often enough, are you going to have the power you need? Now, we have seen that Nikolai Petrov has been in all of the cards other than the Wanyamon, so you should probably look at what Nikolai actually does. We got a free cost Tamer here. At the start of your main phase, one of your Digimon with the name Gaomon or Gaogamon gain jamming for the turn. And I have gone and had a look at the text of the card here just to make sure. It does say name containing Gaomon or Gaogamon. So it doesn't just have to be that they are called Gaomon or Gaogamon. I'm fairly sure it specifically says includes. There on the second line where it says Fukumu, the first actual kanji there, that is includes. So it basically says Gaomon or Gaogamon includes, as in the name includes. So I'm fairly sure it would work for MirageGaogamon, etc. as well here, which is clearly a huge advantage. And yeah, jamming. That's amazing. Bearing in mind you're unsuspending, which is great. Bearing in mind, I told you a minute ago that what you really want to do if your opponent doesn't have a level 5 or lower, you want to attack with Mac Gaogamon so that you can unsuspend when you evolve up. But the problem with that is that if you get deleted attacking into the stack, you can't then evolve into your level 6. Not a problem when you've got jamming. I think jamming is one of the best skills in the entire game. I adore jamming. The fact that you can get jamming here is absolutely huge. And now, even in those games where I'm not drawing as many cards as I wanted, when I'm not getting as much memory as I wanted, when my opponent isn't drawing as many cards as I want to activate my skills, I've still got lovely Digimon with jamming, and that makes me very, 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 very happy indeed. Oh, and I almost forgot, there's actually a second skill here as well. I'm getting so interested into jamming. There is a skill whereby on your turn, when an effect adds cards to your opponent's hand, you can rest the Tamer to gain 1 memory. So like we saw on MirageGaogamon, as an example, where they have to put one of their security to their hand, not only are you then powering up your skills that rely on your opponent having cards in hand, which is good, but now you get to rest this and gain a memory as well, in addition to giving one of your Digimon jamming, which I think is rather spiffing indeed. I love this, ladies and gentlemen. I'm a big fan, and I'm not generally a blue player, but I love the theme of this whole evolution line. I love jamming. I think this might be one I have to have a bit of a play around with. But first, I want to hear from you guys. Do you like this? Do you think it's awesome? Go nuts in the comment section, but be nice! And then make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, follow me on Twitter at TheWasi. That's where we talk Digimon and card games and a whole bunch of other things. And please do consider checking out patreon.com/PTCGradio, where you can support the channel, get some bonus podcasts and all kinds of fun things. But by far the most important thing as always, look after yourselves till next time, would ya? Thank you very much for watching. My name is Ross, and you've been watching Wasi Plays.